Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. My name is Seta Keshishian. Today I am honored and thrilled to introduce to you my guest, Bette Ounjian. Hello Betty, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Hello and thank you.
Please take us back to your family background if you wish.
Thank you. First of all, it's my pleasure to be here and also to meet you.
Thank you.
I was born here in Toronto, which I'm very grateful for. Both my parents, Helen Olemjian and Pette Ounjian. Actually, Helen was Hrepsime, but she was always known as Helen, even within the Armenian Church here. They were both born in Antap, Turkey, but they did not know each other there. My father, thanks to actually a very good Turkish neighbor of my grandfather, back in 1913, told my grandfather, whom I unfortunately never met, this government isn't looking after us. They're not going to look after you. Get your children out of here, and if you can't manage financially, I will help you.
Wow.
Yeah, yes, they were very, very good neighbors both ways, obviously.
Yes.
Because of that, my father, his younger brother, he was 22 at the time, his younger brother, his younger sister, and a first cousin emigrated to the United States. So they never went through the genocide, and that wonderful Turkish man virtually saved our family. Yes. And I have a very deep regret in my life. I don't know why I never asked my father for that man's name.
I see.
But I always, whenever I have the opportunity, I make sure I tell the story and honor him.
Yes.
For this.
Very thoughtful of you. Thank you.
My mother, on the other hand, she was 13 in 1915, and she did not fare so well, of course. She and her family were turned out of their house, of course, their home, driven out onto the road. She lost her mother, her father, 2 brothers, and she was 13. Her other brother, who survived as well, 15. They ended up in Derzor. Terrible, horrible
situation.
Horrible place. And somehow they managed eventually to make their way to Aleppo. And then an older brother who had much earlier made his way to the United States and had established himself as a professional photographer. He managed to sponsor them to come to the United States.
Usually our elderlies, what I recall, they have never opened the subject of the genocide and their harsh journey of Derzor. Did your mom open her heart and tell you about it?
She told us a little bit, but not much and not in detail. But a good friend who was at York University studying aging as one of her courses asked if my mom would agree to be interviewed. And my mom agreed. And it was during that interview that I learned more detail. I know my mom used to say things like, people were so hungry they were eating the rinds of watermelons that other people had thrown away. Well, during that interview, I found out it was she and her brother who were eating the rinds of the watermelon. And something else she told us was something about, the dead, the dogs were digging up the dead and so forth. We don't need to go into those details. And again, through that interview, she didn't specifically say it, but I believe she was actually talking perhaps about some of her family members.
Of course.
Yes. The only thing she did say is, I never want to go to that country again.
Of course.
And who is to blame her? On the other hand, it's amazing. She never had a bitter bone in her body. Wow. She was a kind, generous, strong, practical, wonderful woman. And how she managed at age 13 to go through all of that and develop into this woman is beyond me. And I always think of her.
Yes. Having been raised by your mom, an exceptional mom, what are the 3 things that best describe you?
Well, actually, coming from her, caring for other people.
That's a good one.
Caring for other people. I know this sounds kind of patting yourself on the back, but I don't mean it that way. But before thinking of yourself, you know, putting other people first and being empathetic and seeing. Yeah.
That's a very good virtue.
Yeah.
What's the second one?
The second one, again from my mom. I love to cook. And of course, as you probably know, with Armenian
tradition, you have
cooking.
to cook. Yes.
Cooking is not just preparing food. You do it with your heart, with your soul, and then you want to share it with others.
Exactly.
And sitting around the table
as a family together.
Exactly. And I love to do that. And every time I do it again, I think of her.
And what's the third?
I believe the third is probably practicality and solving problems. I enjoy solving a problem. Sometimes there are problems I don't enjoy solving, but I don't like to have them bothering me all the time, you know, and it's sitting and worrying and doing nothing except worry. I like to sort of think, well, could I do this or could I do that, or who can I ask who will help me with this? Yeah.
That's excellent. I learned something from you too, right at this moment. Thank you, Betty. Now I will move to my other question. What still charges you and motivates you to do the things that you do?
Partly curiosity, and I still really like to learn. I always enjoyed school, even though school, when I was in elementary school, was mainly copying notes from the blackboard forever. But for some reason or other, and it was, you know, it was really the teachers who inspired me. And whether they were telling me something new or they were kind, whatever. But I've always enjoyed learning something new, and I must admit, I love listening to the radio.
I see.
And usually it's CBC because I don't like commercials. They interrupt my thinking process. And I really enjoy interviews when people are being interviewed and learning more from them and learning more about the world, because I can't go out into the world, partly age, but it's become extraordinarily expensive now.
I know.
But the world can come to us through talking with other people who are coming from other parts of the world, or through, again, the radio, mainly the radio.
There's a saying, they say age is just a number. What's your opinion about that? Now that we were talking about age.
I agree with that. Sometimes, if we need to put a number to it, when I'm full of energy, I forget whatever I am, and I'm 84.
There you go.
And I feel like I felt back when I was 18 or 20 or 25, whatever.
Charged back, right?
Yeah. And sometimes I feel 84 or 94.
When is it? When is it that you feel your age?
When? You know when? When somebody who I knew as a little kid, and all of a sudden they're 40 and 50 and 60, and I think, how did that happen?
Do you really feel time passed by very fast?
Interesting question. Latter years, yes. Yes. When you're a child, you know, a week goes on forever. A month goes on forever, but in latter years, very quickly, I find.
My last question. Can you tell us about your spiritual growth?
That's a very deep question, isn't it?
It is.
It is. I don't know so much if I would call it growth, or maybe,
journey,
or more awareness. my apartment, I'm very, very fortunate. I look out into a forest, even though I live practically in the middle of the city. I'm very fortunate.
Nice.
And I look out there, and it helps me to feel a real part of the world and an appreciation for nature. An appreciation for, I look out there and I think of our indigenous people. And I think, my goodness, they have lived there, in the forest, in the plains, so amazingly.
So it's the connection, right? That enriches their lives.
Very, very much so. And I guess every day I'm sort of more aware of my surroundings, and I feel
grateful, maybe?
Grateful and fulfilled with it. But I have to admit, on the other hand, with all the news that we're getting, some people will say, oh, well, there have always been wars, there have always been this and that, which of course I know historically. But it seems we used to live in a kinder world, at least here. We're very privileged here in Canada, there's no question. But I think when I was in my teens and 20s and 30s, and even into 40, we were in a kinder world. People cared about each other more. They were more part of communities. Things have changed now. And that part I must despair. But on the other hand, as I say, when I think of the blessings that we have, what we have been given, and how seriously blessed personally I have been with the parents that I had, with the Armenian community that I grew up in, with the Canadian community that I grew up in. I feel very blessed.
And I am blessed to have the chance to meet such an extraordinary and special person like you, Betty. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your life with us. I was honored and thrilled to get to know you personally, and the viewers as well. You had a very rich life to share it with us. I thank you again, and until we meet next time, you take care of yourself.
And Seta, thank you very much. This was a privilege to meet you and to talk with you and to share a little bit of my background.
Until we meet again, take good care of yourselves. Bye for now. Thank you, Betty, so much. It's such a pleasure meeting you finally. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you. You made it a really comfortable.
I hope so.
Because I've never been interviewed before, so this was, thank you so much.
Such an honor, thank you. I learned so much from you. I hope I will be quarter of who you are.
Oh, you're more than that.
Thank you, thank you.